Okay, so now that we have the bones and the FK controls in place for our arm, in this video I'd like to go ahead, continue setting up the arm, get some basic stretchy IK in place, and also set up the twist control for that IK chain. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply stretchy IK to our arm bone chain. So I'm going to activate the stretchy IK tool, select our start bone and push enter, and then select our end bone and push enter, and that will invoke stretchy IK. Now you can see, hopefully, that this has got incorrect rest angles on our bones and is giving us IK that's not going to bend on the correct axis, on the correct plane. You can see that that is not the rotation that we wanted for our arm. So what we can do, we can jump in and let's go up to edit, down to objects and over to our IK rest. That's going to allow us to modify the rest pose for our bones. I want to grab the upper arm bone and rotate its rest position. So let's grab the upper arm bone and rotate its rest position around in Y. So we're indicating that we want IK to drive this bone mainly on the Y axis. I also want to come in with our lower arm bone and rotate this down and back in Y. If we then go back to edit, objects and switch over to none, we can see now if we were to grab our IK handle, we are now rotating our arm around like so. That is the correct rotation for our arm. Fantastic. So now that we've got that in place, we do have some cleanup to do with our newly created stretchy IK. Our IK handle needs renaming to L_arm_IK handle. Let's go ahead and give it a blue wireframe color and boost its geoscale ever so slightly. We also need to go ahead and grab our stretch start. Let's clean up our network, move that up towards the root of our shoulder. I'd also like to go ahead inside of our Kinchops network. Let's find our newly created IK solver, and I want to rename this to indicate that this is now our arm kinematics. So I'm going to rename this to L_arm kinematics. We have some setup to do here. We do, of course, since it's stretchy IK, want to straighten the solution. If we straighten the solution, we then see that we do get some weird popping. That's because the accuracy of our solution's not quite there. So let's boost up the tracking threshold. Again, I'm going to use 0.00001. If we grab our control, we can now see that we don't get that weird glitch anymore because our IK solver is now being more accurate. So now that we've got that in place and we've set up our rest angles, we can go ahead and get our twist control created. I also want to grab our chop network, bring that down by our geometry, and let's grab our arm nodes and move those up above our legs. Since we're dealing with a character and I want to leave this fairly organized in such a way that it looks kind of like the layout of a character, with our leg here going into an arm, and then in the next DVD when we set up our spine and our head, all our central controls, we'd want those to be down the center. So let's go ahead, and with that in place we can now set up our twist control. So I'm going to branch off of our shoulder root into a null. And in this case, because we don't need to offset from that position, whereas with our leg we wanted to offset forwards, and so we needed to inherit the rotations generated by the twist. In this case, we do not need to inherit those rotations because we're not going to offset from the axis any, and that's going to work out perfectly for us, because in this case we want that control to exist in front of our elbow and not behind. That means we can sit perfectly on the axis, so we don't need to inherit any of the rotations of the twist itself. So I'm going to go ahead and with this null, let's rename it to L_position twist control. And I want this to exist halfway between our current location, the shoulder root, and the IK handle. So that means I'm going to use an origin expression. In the translate X for that control, I'm relative to L_shoulder root. I want to grab the L_arm_IK handle, and the piece of information I want to grab from that is translate X. And I won't just want to grab translate X, I want to divide translate X in half. I want to only translate half of the way. We need to do that for Y and Z as well. So I'm going to Control C, Control V that expression into translate Y, replace out the parameter that we're after with translate Y, and then again, in this case, Control C, Control V over into Z, and replace out the parameter, the transformation parameter we're interested in, with Z. So that means now, as we move our IK handle, that null is going to position itself halfway between the two. Now its orientation is not currently set up correctly. We do need to make sure that this guy points at either our shoulder or our end effector. In this case, I'm going to make it look at our shoulder. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to look at our L_shoulder root. And that means that as we start moving this, it is going to orient itself correctly as well. So that's fantastic. So now we can use this as a parent for our twist control. So I'm going to wire a new null off of L position twist control, and I'm going to name this L_arm_twist control. Let's hide out and disable selectability of our position twist control, and then go ahead and give our arm twist control a blue node color. Now again, we're on the left hand side of our character, so I want it to have a blue wireframe color, and I want it to have a circular control type, and we're only going to rotate again on the Z axis with our twist control, so that's going to be the YX plane that we want our control aligned on. Now I do want to boost the geo scale very slightly. Something right around there will work out fantastically for us. We also know we're only rotating on Z, so let's lock our translates, lock our scales, lock our pivots, the uniform scale, and also our rotate on X, and rotate on Y, so we can only rotate on Z. So now we can drive the rotation of our IK twist parameter. We can drive the IK twist parameter, with the rotation of this control. And that's going to drive the rotation of our arm bones. Now, if we were to rotate this in if we were facing down this way down the character, if we were to rotate this in an anti-clockwise direction, you'll see that we are getting a positive value. If we were to jump down inside of our Kinchops network onto L_arm kinematics and grab our IK twist and increase that in a positive value, you can see indeed that is working as well. So we want to have an exact reference to that rotate Z parameter as opposed to a negative reference. So let's go ahead and reference our L_arm_twist control and grab his rotate in Z. So that's going to now drive that IK twist on our arm kinematics. If we jump up and were to grab our IK handle, we can now move our IK handle, grab our control, we can jump in and start rotating, and that's going to drive the twist of our arm. So that's working fantastically. So I'm going to reset that back to its default location, and with that, that is going to conclude the setup of the basic stretchy IK on our arms. Thanks a lot.